every time we've no control. If the sky is pink and white, if the ground is black and yellow, it's the same way you showed me. Nod my head, don't close my eyes, halfway on a slow move. It's the same way you showed me. If you could fly, then you'd feel south. Up north's getting cold soon. The way it is, we're on land, so I'm someone to hold true. Keep you cool when it's still alive. Won't let you down when it's all ruined. Just the same way you showed me. Showed me. You showed me love.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Word to Us, a podcast by a Black first-gen female student for Black first-gen female students. My name is Kyla-Journey Womack, and I'll be the host of this series. Last season, I focused on the taboo topics that weren't talked about within the Black community and households. This season, I want to branch out on my topics to create a community that centers Black women's voices and opinions. Although I created this podcast for Black first-gen female students, that doesn't mean they're the only ones that can listen to this podcast. They were my original focus because I wanted a community that caters to the intersection of my identities, and I wanted to carve out a space catered to Black women created by one. The topics I plan on covering with this series can apply to any and everyone. Okay. Hi, everyone. So we are in a new location, and we are with a guest. So this is my good friend, Ben. Ben, do you want to introduce yourself to viewers?
Yes. Hello, my name is Benjamin Adar. Born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts.
Woo, woo, woo.
Repping Nigeria always.
Let's go.
Yes. Thank you, Casey, for having me on your show. You know, I'm thinking it's an honor, honestly, and I'm so happy and glad to get to talk about the topics that you have for us today.
I'm so excited. So today's topic, I wanted to delve into Christianity as a religion versus as a belief. So for both me and Ben, I come from an African American household. I'm not sure what I am ethnically. I would like to find out at some point of my life, but I do know that on my mom's side of the family, we are from either the Bahamas or Barbados. I get it wrong every time, and then my mom tells me it's the other one, but it's one of the two. And then on my dad's side, we're from Alabama, and then before Alabama, I'm assuming Africa, because the only way that most African people got to America in the South was through the transatlantic slave trade. But in terms of understanding Christianity as a religion versus as a belief, a lot of African American families, a lot of Black families, and a lot of like just African people in general, because Christianity was a religion that came from whoever colonized them. Me and Ben feel that there's a difference between taking Christianity as like your personal belief versus understanding Christianity as a religion. But yeah, so the first thing I wanted to mention is that the history of Christianity was, or the history of Christianity is essentially it was forced on African countries, and it demonized hoodoo, and there's a difference between hoodoo and voodoo. So hoodoo was created by Central and West African groups in the South during their time of enslavement. So this was something that they took from Africa, brought to the South, and then they started practicing it in the South. And then whoever their owners were, or the white people that saw them practicing the spirituality, named it hoodoo. And it is also known as either root work or conjuring. So if you've seen the movie Sinners, what Annie does when she's talking about the bag that she made for smoke, that's something that's indicative of hoodoo culture, but that's different than voodoo. And the Code Noir was implemented in 1724 in French colonial Louisiana, and it regulated the lives of enslaved Black and free people, and prohibited and made it illegal for enslaved Africans to practice their traditional religions. So whether this was root work, anything that was spiritual, or anything that basically wasn't colonized Christianity, couldn't practice it. And voodoo itself is, its followers believe in an omnipotent and unknowable supreme creator named Bondi. His name comes from the French term bondu, literally meaning good God. Generally, a Haitian voodoo service will be conducted in Creole, which is a Haitian French dialect. And Per voodoo belief, Bondi does not directly intercede in the lives of human beings, which is different from the Christian God, because a lot of people see God as like this omnipotent being who chooses the different paths. So in this case, with voodoo, that's not what Bondi does. And consequently, voodoo priests and priestesses call upon the Loa, or spirits who work for Bondi, and different Loa are responsible for the different aspects of human life. So if you've ever been to New Orleans, like this is very prevalent in the South, especially with Louisiana, but there is a difference again between hoodoo and voodoo. So voodoo is directly connected to the Loa, Bondi, that whole element of understanding the cycle of human life, whereas hoodoo is connected more to root work and understanding the different herbs, the different roots, the different plants and things that are implemented into praying over the roots to give you protection or to give you healing or things of that nature. Yeah, just a little background knowledge for you guys. Just a little bit, just so we have some understanding of where we're coming from. But I would say, like I stated before, Christianity came from colonialism, and then where it came from before that is really just like the way I try to explain it is like there are people who are Catholic and then there are people who are Christian, but Christianity is the umbrella and then Catholicism is a raindrop under the umbrella. You know what I mean? So then there are different
denominations.
Yes, thank you. There are different denominations, which is what I have next. So personally, I like my family. We were just raised Christian, like just general, the overarching umbrella. But there are different denominations, which would be Roman Catholic, Protestant, Eastern Orthodox, Baptist. So these are like the most common ones you'll hear. So Baptist is more the one that you'll hear about in the South, and then Protestant is like Middle Eastern seaboard, stuff like that. And then these are the main ones, and then under those there's even more. So if you've ever heard of someone who's like a Seventh Day Adventist, like there's someone who they don't celebrate birthdays, Halloween, Christmas, any sort of general holiday, and then they also go to church on Saturday. So most of these facets and denominations in general just focus mostly on, one God, omnipotent, send his son Jesus to die for our sins, and then that's base information. There's also the Bible, which is God's word that he spoke to man, that man then wrote about, and then distributed it to the rest of the world. And the prophets were people that God called upon and spoke to directly to write his word, which is what the Bible that we know as today is. It's my little spiel.
So I'm Nigerian, I said in the beginning, but both my parents were raised Christian. I'd like to say they weren't raised in any specific denomination, but I was baptized as a child. I'm pretty sure my parents were baptized as a child.
Yep.
So I don't know if that makes us Catholic, or I don't know exactly how that works necessarily.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they were both raised as Christian. The Catholic household.
Yep.
Again, baptized as a child.
Yep.
And one thing that I find, I guess, very interesting is, let me talk about the history necessarily with Christianity within Nigeria compared to maybe the Americas. Because I'm not very well versed in how Christianity kind of evolved within America. But I can speak for Nigeria in the sense that Nigeria, again, is a multi-ethnic country. So, number one, like, there are multiple tribes in Nigeria who all have their own cultures and their own customs, right?
Right.
And the southern part of Nigeria are mostly Muslims. They mostly follow Islam. Most of them are underneath Al-Fulani, which is the tribe in Nigeria. They're the biggest tribe in Nigeria, which all used to reside in the south. And then if you move, not south, but north. And then when you move to the south, which is where my family is from, you have a bunch of different other tribes. Some tribes refer to as Igbo and Yoruba.
Yes.
But those are tribes that have been Christianized by during the colonial era, right? And while these tribes still have their own customs and traditions that follow kind of like spiritual practices in some format, they mostly, again, they have been Christianized to a certain degree, in which, again, they baptize their children, you know what I'm saying? There's mass churches all around the southern part of Nigeria, right? It's absolutely insane. but I guess in some sense it's kind of strange and a little interesting to see how Christianity evolved within each of these different cultures. Just because of the fact that again, in a multi-ethnic place, how do you evolve one religion as the main religion amongst all these different people? You know what I'm saying? People who don't even speak the same language follow the same religion, and it's very interesting to kind of see how they all portray that in their own way. So growing up in a Nigerian Christian household, you know, let's talk about like just Christianity like developing as a child. You know what I'm saying? It's like in the sense it's like you grow up not knowing anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Literally.
It's like the only thing you know is Christianity, and I assume that's the thing for any other household that practices a certain religion. You know you grow up not knowing the other ones that exist. You know what I'm saying? But I feel as a child when as you go through those development stages where you're kind of like trying to formulate your own identity and stuff like that, being introduced to other cultures never made me feel as though I wasn't centered within my own religion. You know what I'm saying? Like we learn about Buddhism and Taoism and all these and Judaism in history classes and elementary school. And it was never that I never felt like I was anything else but Christian. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was like, even like I was pretty like devout as a child within my Christianity. You know what I'm saying? Prayed every night. My family did that. That was one thing we did. Went to church every Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Prayed before you ate. I had a Bible. You could ask my seventh grade teacher. It was so funny. I used to have a Bible. I used to have a Bible in school. I had that Bible with me everywhere I went. I put on my desk in class. He said, "You can't do that." I said, "But this is my religion." We had a whole conversation about this.
Oh my gosh.
But I was a pretty, if not, I would like to say the word devout. That word could also be used. But I was a pretty devout Christian, at least at that young age.
I was gonna say for your age, I don't think it would have been performative because it wasn't like you were doing it because you were like, oh, like people are gonna see this and be like, oh, like he's such a good Christian boy. You know what I mean? I think you were doing it because literally it was like what you were used to and what was normal.
Exactly. You know, again, growing up around other people who also follow the same religion.
Yeah, you're like, this is normal.
Exactly. You don't really see anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I think I don't know the age in which I started. I think I started to kind of like question that, or not even question that. I don't know if that's the right word. I think the age in which I started to kind of inspect that belief was probably around 8th grade, like a little bit going into high school, because at that time, that was when, well, number one, at that time, I had become friends with people who were not devoutly Christian. You know what I'm saying? I had a couple. They're still close friends to me. I had a couple close friends who were atheists. Didn't believe in God. And while that wasn't something that I think I personally felt inclined to necessarily, it was something that definitely made me question my own foundation of belief. In terms of, again, talking more closely about myself personally, both my parents were raised Christian. Actually, I went back to Nigeria, maybe it was 2 to 3 years ago, and I got to see my father's church.
Oh wow.
My father's church.
Wow.
Yeah, it was my grandfather's funeral. God bless his soul. We went back to his original church, and it was such an experience to see Nigerian churches compared to American churches. It's kind of the same thing. Like when we talk about churches like in America, you know what I'm saying? There's the white churches,
Right.
black churches.
Right. Because I'm like, is it like big sanctuary and then there's smaller rooms? Is it a dedicated building? Was the church in another building? Like, I'm just.
So Nigeria's it's not a very welcome country. So it was one center, of course, but they kind of have the same. I think in my verbiage, they have the same aura sense of like unity and just kind of like the way they preach and the way they kind of like show off the culture and their religion. You know what I'm saying? It's very much louder than I put traditional white, what's it called? White Christianity. When I go to like wider churches, you know what I'm saying? It's very quiet. It's very controlled. You know what I'm saying? Very like within itself.
Mm-hmm.
While with black churches, and again, the church that I went to back
Mhm.
here, you know what I'm saying? It's very loud. People are jumping over dancing. People are,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? People are shouting, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the way they learn how to express religion.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, again, in that sense, it's kind of interesting to see the dynamic between Christianity developing in the Black Americas versus Christianity developing in Africa, because
Yeah.
you know, two very different places, two very
Mhm.
geographically distant places,
Yeah.
evolving almost in the same format. You know what I'm saying?
And it's so wild how, as separate as we may seem, because we're so far apart and it's a long flight, like more than half a day, I think, it's something like that. But especially depending on where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that we're literally across continents, but there's still a cultural connect is just so astounding to me. Yep, I know they're, in terms of like Mattapan specifically, a lot of them are like First Presbyterian or like First Baptist, or I don't see a lot of like Protestant on the actual building, but in terms of like practice, like technically if you were to label like the denomination that my family is under with Christianity, it would be Protestant, but we also mix that with some Baptist. But I think the most, like in terms of extreme sides, I think the most extreme would be Seventh Day Adventist, just because they don't celebrate any holidays whatsoever, and they also go to church on Saturday instead of Sunday. And they also, there's one other like major difference that I'm blanking on right now, but there are a lot of churches where their culture is African American, but like they ethnically may be like, let's say, Haitian or like you said, Nigerian. So they may have services in their native language, although it still is a Christian church, if that makes sense.
Yes. I
Mhm.
begin to hang around, you know what I'm saying, circle myself with people who did not follow the same religion as me. And I don't think it made me step away from my religion
Mhm.
as much as it made me inspect my religion more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And even more, I think the reason why I was so close to these people was because at that time I was also grappling with other versions of my identity
Mhm.
that I wasn't really sure about.
Mhm.
And seeing them able to live their identity, to, if not the fullest, you know what I'm saying, able to live it,
Yep.
kind of made me grapple with the idea of where my identity stood at,
Right.
not only in terms of my religion, but just in general. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I came out as gay
Mhm.
sophomore year of high school, but I knew I was gay
Mhm.
maybe 7th grade or 8th grade. The middle school I went to was very, how do I talk about this? You know, I went to a very predominantly African American, Caribbean, predominant Christian school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So everybody kind of like had the same. Was kind of not grew up the same, but like their parents had
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
ideas and traditions of what the future looked like.
Got you.
So to diverge from the pathway, you know what I'm saying, the mentality was not the you know what I'm saying, that was not the idea.
You said, "Oh, I'm not dealing with this right now."
I'm not that strong.
I'm okay actually. I'll wait.
But then high school came along, and it was like high school was a whole different kind of people. I mean, number one, different race. You know what I'm saying?
Completely. For context, me and Ben both went to BLS, Boston Latin School, oldest school in the entire United States of America, mind you. And they didn't let women in until 1974, and until segregation was deemed illegal, and whoever was in charge at the time, which I will talk about this in another podcast episode, but whoever was in charge at the time was like, okay, like we can let black students in. That's when they decided to do that, but that probably wasn't until early 80s, late 80s, maybe early 90s. We both went to BLS. Did you start as a 60?
No, I was
You were a BC. I started in 2017 after I graduated from my elementary school, because I finished there at 6th grade. BLS is 7th to 12th grade. So I was there 7th grade and 8th grade and 9th grade all the way up until 12th.
That's right.
Ben got their busy year, which was freshman year. Yep. No, but it's okay, because the middle school years of BLS were just not. That wasn't an experience I would ever want to have again.
Yeah.
Like if someone was like, "Oh, you have to go back to middle school, or you're not going to get $1 million," I'd be like, "That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm never doing that again." So
My thing is that it really depends on who you are as a person.
that's true.
I think I would have developed interestingly, regardless of what school I went to.
Yeah,
But
me
I
too.
feel like being in BLS felt a little bit more, not say free, you know what I'm saying? But I think I had a little bit more room to wiggle around because, like,
Yeah.
I feel like, again, in my old school, it was only one way, or it was the hard way. And I didn't
Yeah.
really want to choose the hard way.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, with BLS, you have all these, I'm going to say that first, you know what I'm saying? Different people. And again,
A lot of white people. A lot of Asian people.
My God.
I've never, like, you want to talk about a diaspora, like, black people have a diaspora, but Asian people, like, there's so many different cultures within Asia itself, like,
yeah,
mind-boggling.
Things you don't really know until you're in these
it.
different groups. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, I didn't even know there was, there was different, like, like, I knew Asia was, like, different places, but I didn't know, I didn't understand all the different, like, customs.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, like
versions,
understanding
ethnicities, you know what I'm saying?
what's different between being Chinese American, Korean American, Vietnamese American,
Yeah.
Thai American. Yeah, yeah. You're just like, oh, there's so much more that I didn't know. But it's not even because you're willfully ignorant. You're blissfully ignorant because you literally just didn't know. And also, if you're not exposed to something like that, and you're not having conversations either with your parents or whoever's at home, you're not gonna like seek out that information because you're still a kid, so you're not understanding, the whole. Can we talk about the political and economic state of the world? Like, you're not gonna go investigate that until you're older.
Yeah.
But by the time you're older, you already understand that there's different people and different ethnicities, and they all have different practices.
Exactly. Which goes back into the religion topic.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, again, the friends I made, they were also gay, LGBTQ, shout out to them, but they were not the same religion as me. You know what I'm saying? So they were all atheists.
Right.
And they all have their reasons for being atheists. Or I think they all were also raised underneath Christian households, but transitioned to that stage of their life. Yeah. Maybe around the same time that we all entered high school. But I was still at that point Christian. I still believed in Christianity, still believed in God. Again, it made me kind of question where I was at because you have now you have these different perspectives, you know what I'm saying? Challenging,
right.
The foundation that you laid.
Exactly.
All these years, you know what I'm saying? And on top of that, you already have this shaky identity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're already questioning things, trying to figure things out for yourself. And it kind of makes it hard, you know what I'm saying? It makes it hard to kind of stand in one thing, especially when those two things feel like bipolar opposites of one another.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And they're not. I don't want to express them as if they are currently, but a lot of people do see it that way.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of space when it comes to the discussion between homosexuality.
Yes.
In regards to Christianity.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think I'm still trying to understand today. I don't know if you have a grasp of it.
You guys, do I have a story for you? Ooh. Okay, so in terms of my identity, I do identify as queer. I know that was originally used as a label to not like demonize the, well, I would call it the queer community. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the LGBTQ community, like queer, was used as basically a slur, and it had a negative connotation attached to it. To myself and to my identity, no label didn't feel what I wanted to call myself, because even using no label, like, that's still a label. Like, you're just choosing not to label yourself, which inherently is a label. Exactly. But I was like, queer makes sense. I like who I like. I like lean back and forth with like pan and bisexual, pansexual and bisexual. And I was like, I'm just going to say queer, because it just, to me, makes it simpler. And again, you should, in an ideal society, you shouldn't have to define that. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, all semantics. It's all semantics. Literally, the fact that you have to use a label, define it has to make sense to whoever you're talking to, like, that's a lot. You should just be able to like someone and just be like, okay, I only want to talk to you, and my sexuality shouldn't influence how you feel about me. But I came out to my parents in sophomore year with the slideshow, and I defined myself as gender fluid, and genderqueer in my eyes are the same thing. I decided to use gender fluid, and I also said I'm queer. And my parents were like, okay, but what does that mean though? And I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna kick me out because I'm gay. They just didn't even know what I meant though. So I just had to explain. I was like, I see myself. At that point in time, I identified as non-binary, and I knew it wasn't for a length of... I knew it wasn't going to be for the rest of my life, but just for that point in time, while I was still trying to understand who I was as an individual, I was like, non-binary feels right. So using, they, them pronouns, not necessarily identifying with either gender on the spectrum, and just understanding that you're just a gender on the spectrum.
Yeah.
That's not either gender.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And also, gender is a social construct. Biologically, everyone is asex, or they're both, which makes you intersex. And also, I would just like to say that's what the I in LGBTQIA stands for. And you should educate yourself further on what being intersex means and the struggles that some of our intersex brothers and sisters go through. Because a lot of people like to talk about gender affirming care when it just comes to trans individuals.
Yeah.
But even cisgender women get gender affirming care. Like if you're someone with... They changed the name of PCOS to, I believe, PMOS. I could be wrong. I will double check later and correct it in the caption. But people who have PMOS, like they experience like hair growth on, their face, so they'll have to shave. They may do laser hair removal. They may take estrogen. The estrogen that they're getting isn't because they're transitioning, it's because their body is experiencing a hormonal imbalance and they need an extra amount of estrogen to balance it out. That doesn't mean that they're transgender, it just means that they need gender affirming care. That's another conversation for another day.
Exactly.
But coming to the understanding that, okay, like I grew up in a Christian household, I'm gender fluid and I'm queer, how does that play into calling myself a Christian? Because with the rhetoric going on now, saying Christian is like you're saying a swear. Because a lot of people are seeing what that word means in terms of the media and not understanding that everyone's personal belief is different from what they're seeing in media.
Yeah, no, like going into, again, what you said about semantics and labeling, you know what I'm saying? It's so hard. I think while I was struggling to kind of understand my sexuality within my religion, I was also struggling to understand what it meant to be a Christian. Because I feel like again, Christianity is a very popular religion.
Yep.
I think most of America is. I think Christianity is the dominant religion within America. You know what I'm saying?
America was founded on Christianity.
Exactly. So when people call themselves Christians, it's like, okay, you're a Christian.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You believe in God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You believe in love thy neighbor.
Right.
You believe in, you know what I'm saying? You know all these verses. Every Christian knows John 3:16 or
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? The prayer, the Eucharist prayer. You know what I'm saying? All these different things. But my thing is that I feel like when I was, again, developing my identity and I started becoming friends with people who were not Christians or were falling out of that religion necessarily, I started having to inspect that idea of that label of what it meant to be a Christian. Because if we talk about Christianity in terms of modern day, you know what I'm saying, works, you know what I'm saying, you look at Christianity in terms of the institutionalization of Christianity and like how we undermine other religions in, you know what I'm saying, spaces of work or spaces of education, you know what I'm saying? You talk about Christianity in terms of just kind of the way other Christians treat each other, you know what I'm saying, based on their denominations, you know what I'm saying? How people talk about Mormons or, you know, how people talk about the Amish, you know what I'm saying? And then you can also talk about in terms of colonialism and all the bad aspects of history that have to do with a Christian promise or a Christian tirade, you know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that there's never been another Christianity weaponized necessarily. You know what I'm saying? There's been countless other religions that have been weaponized.
For sure.
But I feel like, again, in terms of Christianity, it was something definitely interesting that I learned about, not only through school, but also just kind of seeing it in just real life, you know what I'm saying? Just seeing how people use Christianity
against one another.
Yep.
And again, we didn't talk about this yet, but
Oh.
manga, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We talk about how manga uses text and scriptures in a format to mislead their audiences into hateful and bigoted
yes.
What's it called, tirade, you know what I'm saying? And it's just I don't know, I feel like with me, again, in an individual sense, I just don't think as of right now I understand what it means to be a Christian for myself, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I go to school. Right now I'd say I'm friends with a lot of people who are Christian. Not a lot of people. I'm friends with a couple people who are Christian, and I'm friends with a couple people who are not Christian. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And for the people who are very Christian, again, these are very Christian people. Like Bible study every day.
Evening prayer, morning prayer,
exactly.
church on Sunday.
They don't play. You know what I'm saying? At all. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to them. Honestly, something commendable. But in my head, I'm like, this isn't me as a person. And it's not because this isn't something I wouldn't want to be.
Yeah.
But it's conflicting because it's again, it's one thing where it's like, I'm still trying to understand my sexuality in terms of my religion. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm still trying to see them as two sides of the same coin versus two things against one another.
Exactly.
And it's another thing where it's like, you have people where it's just like, I keep tying my religion into the people who call themselves it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I keep seeing it as this one label, and then I'm seeing everyone underneath the label, and I'm just like, I don't feel community within some of these people. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel a sense of comfortability calling myself the same things as these people who are oppressing other people and talking down and condemning others. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Others who are like me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And again, as I grew up, I feel like I slowly watched my belief decompose just because I kept seeing all these foundations that I built my religion on, like the community I centered myself around, the people I sat next to in class, my relationship with my parents, slowly fall apart in some sense. And it was just like, what foundation do you stand on? Where does your belief really stand? You know what I'm saying? What scripture do you point to that tells you who you are and what you stand for? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel rooted within my religion anymore. I don't feel like it's something that I talk about as proudly or I sing about as openly. And it's just such a hard thing to talk about sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's such a hard thing to stand in sometimes.
It's hard, especially because, again, like the conversation that me and Ben are having right now, you can't have this conversation with everyone else that you talk to, because sometimes you're talking to someone and they may not be as open-minded. So you're saying something and they're looking at you, they're like, oh my gosh, you're what? And they're like clutching their pearl, and you're just like, I'm just explaining my experiences, why I am the way that I am, and things like that. So people are calling themselves Christians, and I'm like, I don't see Christ in you. Like, you're not Christ-like, which I think a lot of people say, oh, there is no hate like Christian love, which it hurts my heart that people are saying that, but I'm like, it's true. Like, there are some Christian, and I will say it, there are some older Christians who are very rooted in like their experiences from their generation, and they're not taking the time to have intergenerational conversations with people, either me and Ben's age, people that are younger, people that may be a little bit older, let's say anywhere between, 21? Anywhere between like 25 and 35. They're not having conversations with people that, like, that's not even midlife. Like, midlife is considered anywhere between 50 to 70 because life expectancy is high, but you're still not taking the time to have conversations with younger people. Like, you're surrounding yourself with literally the same like-minded people, so you're gonna keep spewing the same bigotry, the same hate, you're gonna have the same beliefs, which is why when you're in these sort of communities and when you're going to church, it's like, okay, you have the understanding that everyone in church is like you. But if that's the case, then the churches aren't doing their job. Yeah. Because church isn't just for people who are saved. It's for people who aren't saved. It's for people who are looking to be saved. It's for people who are looking to find God. Because the church is basically a spiritual hospital. If everyone in the hospital is well, the hospital's not doing its job. The hospital is supposed to help heal people who aren't doing well.
Yeah.
In this case, obviously, the church is spiritual. So if people aren't spiritually doing well, they should feel welcome and open enough to be able to go to a church and go into a service and not feel like they're being condemned or pointed out or harmed personally because of the pastor's political beliefs, because of the pastor's personal experiences. I'm not saying you can't talk about politics in church. I think you should, because a lot of power is in the church, because it is a place of community. A lot of people go there, so you're more likely to get higher numbers. I believe everyone should exercise their right to vote if you have it. Look into your candidates. Look into look into what they want to do. But you also need to understand that just because you have a certain political belief, that doesn't mean everyone else in there is going to.
Yeah.
Just because you call yourself a Christian doesn't mean someone else's definition of Christian is the exact same definition as yours.
Yeah.
I would technically consider, like, if someone had to, like, they'd be like, are you Christian? I say, no, I'm spiritual. I grew up in a Christian household, but I would consider myself a follower of Christ. Because I don't want to be a Christian. I want to be a follower of Christ. I want to be someone who understands that Jesus was a real person who came on this earth, and he lived until he was 33. He died on the cross for our sins.
Exactly.
That's how I want to live. When you hear Christian now, you literally clutch your pearls because you see this bigoted rhetoric that's being spewed and used to, like you said, like, condemn people, spread hate. I don't believe in that. I genuinely don't believe in that. The black woman is the most disrespected person in America. Why would I, as a black woman who grew up under an organized religion, want to then oppress other people just because I'm oppressed? That never made sense to me, and it will never make sense. I don't want to oppress someone else. I don't want to force someone else to believe what I believe.
Right.
I know that personally, without God, I would not be the individual who I am today. However, I understand that not everyone has had their come to Jesus moment yet. And when I say come to Jesus moment, there's a very specific time in your life when you'll be like, wow, genuinely, I would not have made it if it were not for the grace of God, Allah, the universe, whomever. So if you're someone who's atheist, there's still some power in the universe that kept you from doing whatever.
Yeah.
Or kept you from going on that dark path or whatever. And again, that's not to say that as a Christian or as someone who grew up in a Christian household or as someone who identifies as whatever organized religion, that doesn't mean you can't have mental health issues and you can't have mental illnesses, because you can. I think everyone should go to therapy. This is something I talked about within my first season of my podcast. Everyone should go to therapy. If you're someone who talking helps you solve your problems, you should go to therapy.
Right.
Find a therapist who works for you.
I also want to talk about the evolution of Christianity kind of a little bit.
Yep.
Except in the sense that, like, I feel like I've never seen a religion so fragmented as Christianity is. Like,
yeah.
If we compare, let's not even take it outside of, like, other religions besides the Abrahamic
Yep.
ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, not even in a large sense, because I haven't studied the theology of Christianity well enough to have a very thorough discussion about the evolution of it.
I do not have no bachelor's in religious study, none of that.
Yeah, but I think, again, kind of talking about, okay, like, the formation of denominations, and then also the translation of Christianity from Hebrew to English. I think Christianity first started in Hebrew, and then it went into English, right? And then also the idea of, like, okay, well, there's also Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which doesn't even fall underneath the Roman Catholic Christianity. It's something entirely different that I think pre-existed that, you know what I'm saying? If I'm correct? Like, all these different questions regarding just the origins of Christianity make me even further kind of, like, the way we talk about Christianity, do we talk about it as a belief? Do we talk about it as an institution?
Right.
And what institution are you talking about Christianity in? Because we don't all believe in the same thing. We don't all, or if we do believe in the same thing, we don't all practice it the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, we all have different ideas of what it takes to get into heaven, what it takes to get into the final destination.
Right.
And it's just it's so mind-boggling. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it really it's so disorienting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, literally.
Trying to consume all that and then define it. That's again, the semantics. You know what I'm saying? You have to have a label type thing. It's not like, oh, like, I just follow God. Because then
someone will be like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
what do I mean?
Under what circumstances? You know what I'm saying? What practices do you do? Do you fast? Do you fast? You know what I'm saying? Do you go to church every Sunday?
And people practice things different.
Do you eat pig? Do you eat pork?
Right. It's all these things that I believe make the denominations the denominations. There's different things that different denominations do that others don't, and that's what makes them different. But how do we get fragmented in the first place? Because it came from colonization. colonization broke us up, and colonization is what dispersed everyone across the world the way that it has.
Yeah.
Especially in America.
It's just, when we talk about Christianity, it's just, again, it's so many developing different things.
So many.
That it's a very hard to pinpoint on one simple topic because there's so many different opinions on that, you know what I'm saying? So many different interpretations.
Yeah.
So many different, different, if anything, words, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Scriptures
100%.
change across the versions, you know what I'm saying? Like
New Living Translation,
King
James version.
Yeah.
A lot of people call that like the holier version because King James is using vowels and these and dines. God spoke to prophets. God gave his word to these prophets to then write down. These prophets' words were then put together in this big book. This big book was gathered over however many years it took to write the whole Bible, and then translated into however many languages there are that exist in the world. The Bible is the most translated book ever. And the most read book ever. So you're telling me this ancient Hebrew text got translated into modern day English, and nobody else is wondering what may have been lost in the translation from the original English, or excuse me, from the original Hebrew or the original language to what it is now? Yeah. I'm confused. In my understanding from the way that translating goes, you look at the original text, you look at the original language, and you're looking at the language you want to bring it to, and you're looking for similar words. Yeah. Because again, if God didn't want you to be gay, he wouldn't have made you that way. People don't choose to be oppressed. They just happen to be because of the society that we live in. Yeah. Because me and Ben both look black, no one cares that he's Nigerian and that I'm African American. If a police officer who was bigoted and racist pulled us over, me and Ben's lives would both be in danger because we are both black individuals. That's that. But the point is, you have to understand that what one thing may say and then gets translated into another, there's some information that was lost. We're not hearing, well, some people now aren't hearing directly from God himself. They're taking their pastor's word, or they're taking the Bible's word, which I'm not saying the Bible is lying. I'm just like, the translation. Something about that translation is bothering me. Yeah. You just have to understand that between the original language, hearing it from God, you hear him clearly because he's speaking to you internally, and putting that down to paper, between that initial piece of paper to the next thing you're translating it into, there could be something that was lost. Yeah. The Bible was written by men. Men, why, unfortunately, you know what I'm saying, men are of sin. Yeah. So I don't know. It's not for me to say that I think parts of the Bible are miswritten or misinterpreted or misclassified. But it's unfortunate to see how that small or big thing could have, is enough to tell people, is enough to make people believe that the way that I choose to love is wrong. You know what I'm saying? That the way that I choose to love goes against everything else I believe that is right within that religion. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, a lot of people say you can't be gay and be Christian. Who said that? Did God say that? Did God himself tell you that?
I'm about to say. But some people say God did say that.
To who?
Shout out to religious psychosis. I don't know about that.
Don't get me
started. I didn't say that though. You know what I'm saying?
But don't get me
because I don't want people to jump down my throat.
It's a thing. Religious psychosis is a thing.
To each its own, you know what I'm saying? You believe in your faith, all power to you. You know what I'm saying? Now, I wouldn't, I choose, all I'm going to say is that I feel as though your belief is your belief. Yep. And we need to leave it as a belief. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And a lot of people treat Christianity beyond belief. They treat it as fact. And they use that, again, to oppress, to condemn, and to divide themselves amongst others. You know what I'm saying? And that is not what Christianity preaches. At all. Love thy neighbor. That's the first thing and the one thing I'm always going to say. Love thy neighbor. As a Christian, I've met too many Christians, I feel like, nowadays who will preach it, but will not do it. You know what I'm saying? And again, the Bible teaches us, again, humans are of sin. We make mistakes. People are of a fault. You know what I'm saying? Yep. it's a narrow road to God.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If that's the road that people choose to fall, I don't want to fall the same road as them. I'm sorry. It just doesn't sit right with me. But again, I'm still trying to understand what it means to be Christian. I'm still trying to understand what my belief is. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to deconstruct it so it's not of the world, as the Bible says, but of Him. And yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, what we're 21.
21, and we got a lot more life and a lot more experiences ahead of us.
We have time to define it, and even then, I don't think it'll ever be fully defined.
Nope.
But that is belief.
And that is that.
Yeah, that is belief.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you, Ben, for coming and joining me. And to my viewers, this is an ongoing conversation. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And I will see you all next time. Thank you for listening to this conversation, opening your mind to things you may not have considered before, and giving me your time. Take care of yourself, stay healthy, and remember, this is a word to us. Share it when you feel ready. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear from me or any guests. Peace and love, Kyla-Journey.
I'm done hating myself for feeling. I'm done crying myself away. I gotta leave and start the healing. But when you move like that, I just wanna stay. What have I become? I'm looking through your phone now, oh now. Love to you is just a game. Look what I have done. I'm dialing up the numbers, oh yeah. I don't want my heart to break, baby. How do you sleep when you lie to me? All that shame and all that danger. I'm hoping that my love will